is the A to Z podcast. Expert insights on leadership, business, real estate, investing, and growth.
A coach of mine once told me that he was very busy. He's entrepreneur. He was very busy, but he's supposed to present at Toastmasters. He didn't have time to write down the speech, rehearse it, and prepare for it. And he remembered in our coaching session where I suggested that he should come up with a framework like introduction, body, and conclusion, and how to hook the audience, make a transition, give them three things, and then make a transition and close. And don't bother much about the body part. It could be impromptu speech or prepare the speech. You can wing it in the middle if you don't have time to rehearse and prepare for it. But at least I emphasized in the coaching and also in my book, Speaking for Impact, that make sure that your introduction hooks your audience and your closing should be high impact. He remembered that. And therefore, he went, read chapter 5, and he went and presented his speech. He got feedback after the speech, and the feedback were very great. They told him, wow, you improved a lot. You rocked it from the stage. I can tell that you prepared, you rehearsed it. It went very well. It was very smooth. He accepted all those praises and feedback, but he knew what he did. He just focused on the introduction and the body. The rest took care of itself. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you on how to overcome one challenge, which is in the past, attention span was like 12 minutes and then 5 minutes. Now, like seconds. If you don't hook your audience within seconds, they're gone. I had a friend who attended an event and I knew two of the speakers. And he was telling me about one speaker that hooked him and he enjoyed that presentation. He was taking notes and he was all in. But there was another speaker whom I also know. He got bored. He told me he was on his cell phone responding to texts, emails, and so on. What happened? The second speaker, he didn't hook him. And because of that, he lost him. It didn't matter whether he gave great content afterward, because my friend in the audience made his mind, this guy is boring, doesn't worth my time, and therefore I'm going to use my time somewhere important, like responding to text and email and checking his social. You don't want that to happen to you. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples, real examples. These are mentioned in the book, but I want to give you live examples, some of which are not mentioned there, but I'm going to explain to you, and show you how you could use these hooks. When you have a presentation for which you have time, I encourage you to prepare very well for the entire speech. But if you don't have time, at least focus on the introduction and the closing and make sure that you make transitions. When, for example, you are given the opportunity to speak impromptu, you have maybe 2 minutes. I enjoyed this kind of speech when I was at Toastmasters. I used to be a leader of some clubs and even the president, sometimes secretary. I've done that as a member and also as a leader. And I love that part, table topics, which means you could be a table topic master. You have some questions. You ask volunteers. They come on the stage and you give them the question, the table question, and they have 2 minutes to answer. They never prepare. It's impromptu. I have also participated. I had 2 minutes and I have to make my point for a topic I haven't rehearsed. During those times, what helped me the most was the structure I've had. I have 2 minutes. I use 30 seconds for introduction, 30 seconds for closing, and the 1 minute for the body part. And while I'm listening to the question. I'm already structuring my speech. What will be my introduction, my body, and closing? Or sometimes you may be called on the stage by your boss. You haven't prepared. Then the boss calls you and says that, hey, give us an update on this project. While you are walking towards the stage, you think about what you're going to say in the introduction, body, and closing. And the most important parts are the introduction and the body, of course, transition. I don't cover it here, but you can find that from the book. Just to give you one tip, for example, once you hook the audience, you could say, today I'm going to talk about three things. Now they know you transitioned from the introduction to the body. Once you finish those 3 or 4 or 5 things, now you make a transition. In conclusion, in summary, lastly, whatever you want to use, now they know that you are transitioning into the closing. Have you seen someone giving you a ride? They don't warn you and they take you to your destination. They stop on the brake and say, get out. I never experienced that. But what would you feel like a speaker presenting, and without you get prepared, they will say thank you and walk away from the stage? What would you feel? That's why you need to alarm and alert your audience that you're about to finish. Telling, for example, a person you gave ride, hey, we're getting about there, and let me stop it now so that you get out. You warn people. In your speech, you need to have that kind of transitions so that people know what's coming. In the closing, I'll show you how to close with high impact. If you focus on these two, introduction and closing, you're going to be okay. Even if you don't have time, even if it's impromptu, you could be able to rock it. Let's start with the introduction part. This is where it makes or breaks your speech. Sometimes I see people with low energy in the introduction, and their energy increases throughout the speech, and maybe they become very low in energy and presence when they close. What's supposed to happen is you need your energy and presence during the introduction and also during the closing. During the introduction, one of the ways you want to have high impact introduction is to use some hooks. And I want to share with you some of these hooks. One hook would be to quote an authority in that organization. Let's say that one of the government agencies invited you to speak. What if you quote the chief of that agency when you start your presentation? They may not know you. They don't think that you have authority to speak to them. But the moment you borrow the authority of their leader, the chief, now they give you their ears and probably their heart because he has already influence. They already know this person. But you borrowed his influence, you hook them with a quotation from that leader in the organization. Or you could use different experts. For example, if I'm talking about communication, I may hook the audience with quotations from experts. I can give you 2 experts. If I'm speaking about communication, for example, I may use Les Brown, one of my favorite motivational speakers. Let's say that communication is the number one tool to succeed in any endeavor. People vote for you, buy your products and services, write you a check, join your cause if you are effective communicator. I could start with that, or I could use another leadership guru, John C. Maxwell, who said that everyone communicates, but few connects. Everyone communicates, few connects. I could use these experts to hook the audience. The third way to hook your audience could be to quote leaders from history. Leaders people already know. For example, I could use Mahatma Gandhi, who said that I live each day as if I die tomorrow. I learn as if I'm gonna live here forever. Or I could use Nelson Mandela. I could use Martin Luther King. I can choose one of them. For example, Martin Luther King Jr., I could say, I have a dream. I could use that quotation to hook the audience. Another thing you could do is you could use statistics, stunning statistics. It's going to hook them. For example, I could say the Earth revolves around its axis 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. It decreases to zero at the pole. The Earth also revolves around the sun with the speed of 67,000 miles per hour. And then I may ask them a question. What's the maximum speed that you have driven your car? Tell me. In most cases, in the US, we would say 80, 90, something. Somebody from German could say 120, 200 because they don't have any limits in certain highways. And then I tell them, look, what did you feel when you were driving 60 miles per hour or 90 miles per hour or even 120 miles per hour? What did you feel inside the car? Most probably the car was shaking, especially if the road is not well. Think about the earth revolving around its axis 1,000, it's not 100, it's not 200, it's not 500, 1,000 miles per hour, even 67,000, it's not 6,700, 67,000 miles per hour around Earth. But we don't even feel any shaking. This is gonna hook them. Or you could use some news. Let's say that you're talking about domestic violence. And the previous day, the previous week, maybe you heard a horrible story about domestic violence, which was a huge news in that neighborhood. And when you speak, you could quote back and refer that news to hook your audience. Now they were horrified by that news. Now you brought it to their attention. Now they take your speech seriously. Or you could use analogies and metaphors. I can give you a couple of them. For example, you could say, pursuing something which is nothing to do with who you are and your passion is like climbing a ladder which is leaned against the wrong wall. Or you could say, taking this job or this position is like sleeping on a tree. These kind of metaphors and analogies can help you hook the audience. You could even bring some object. For example, if you're talking about globalization or something to do with the world map, you could bring a globe in the room. But one thing you should be careful is you have to remove it because it may draw the attention of your audience. Once you use it, you remove it. These are just some of the ways you could hook your audience. Here are a couple of things you need to know. First thing is the quotation or the statistics or the metaphor, whatever you want to use. It could be also anecdote. For example, I started this presentation by sharing an anecdote. My experience with my coachee. You could use short anecdotes to hook your audience, but these anecdotes, quotations, and so on should be relevant to your speech. You don't want to give them statistics about the earth, which is nothing to do with your topic. The second thing that you need to understand is that the hooks that you're going to use should also be very short, and especially if you use some, for example, visualization. I have seen some people, they use visualization to hook the audience. They ask the audience, close your eyes, and the audience close their eyes, and then go to a beach, visualize this, and then open your eyes, and the people are close their eyes, and the speakers, they continue to speak. And therefore, when you use hooks, make sure that you pay attention to to make it shorter, and pay attention to what your audience are doing, especially if you are asking them to do some exercises. That being said, you choose the right hooking for you. Today you may choose this one, tomorrow you may choose another one. But here is one thing I have seen also, which is a stumbling block for a lot of speakers. They come on the stage and they don't hook the audience. They talk about something nothing to do with the topic. I have seen, for example, some speakers, they step on the stage and they say, "Hi, everyone, how are you? I am enjoying being here. What a beautiful weather." What? Or they come on the stage, mention so many people, thanking so many people. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Board Member. Thank you, committee members. Thank you." And you could see they're losing those precious few seconds, because remember, the attention span of our generation is very limited. You could thank people, you could talk about the weather, whatever you want to say on the stage, or introduce yourself, which is not necessary, especially if you have 5, 10, 20 minutes. Most probably somebody introduced you, or maybe when you were invited, every audience member know your biography. Why would you start with your history, your background? But down the road, you could be able to use your story maybe to develop credibility. But you don't want to start with that. And some people say, AZ, if they invited me to speak and if I don't appreciate the people who invite me, they're going to be offended. Yeah, appreciate them maybe once you hooked the audience. What if I want to generate credibility, so that they take me seriously from the get-go? You could do that. For example, I did with a story. I'm talking about how to use high impact introduction and closing. And I shared an anecdote based on my coaching experience. You could tell from that is this guy going to talk about something that he already knows, something he practiced. He has done his due. He paid his due. They already know. It doesn't have to be me coming on the stage saying, "I'm a coach, a trainer." I don't want to start with that. Unless I have like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and the audience don't know me. Maybe I can use the first 5 minutes or 3 minutes to tell them who I am, and then ask them who they are and so on, if the setting allows me to do that. Now, this is about hooking. You have 30 seconds up to 60 seconds. Once you hook them, of course, you have to deliver. During the body, maybe share 3 things. Even if you don't rehearse them, fine. You may lose the audience, fine, but you have to be careful when you come to the closing. The closing is equally important like the hooking, because you're going to be done, you're going to be gone. Remember attention span. People may not remember what you talked about, and therefore you're going to do 3 things. The first thing is let them know that you are closing. In conclusion, if you forget everything that I talked about today, I want you to remember this one and tell them the essence of your presentation in one statement or two. Maybe repeat a brief anecdote or analogy for them to remember that after your speech. And then you give them call to actions. This is where a lot of speakers fail. They don't give a follow-up call to actions. Think about this. You have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe here 20 minutes. After you're gone, they need follow-up actions. For example, in this video, I'm talking about how to structure your speech and introduction and body. I took one chapter on it. I cannot cover everything. I cannot give all examples and stories here. And therefore, I have to give you call to action. You will see me when I do the call to actions. I make it specific. I could say, go to our website. You already have the website under my name. Go to our website and click books, and you'll find the book Speaking for Impact. Go and find the outline of the book, a sample chapter, There is also an audit. If you fill that audit 5-10 minutes, we evaluate your speaking competency and give you the next steps to take it to the next level. We have also coaching and consulting and workshops, 1 day and 2 day. Go to the description, you'll find the link and reach out. You have to make it specific, partly because if it is not specific, people are very busy. They attended your 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes speech, and then they're gone. There are so many things waiting their attention. That's why you want to make it specific. I actually encourage speakers, while you are in the room, if it is possible, tell them, fill this form. I have some forms at the back. Or you could tell them, go to www.whatever.com and click here. I want you to fill the form right now. Or if you want them to make calls, you give them the number specifically and you encourage them, as soon as we're done, I want you to make the calls while you are in this event, while you are in this room. Or you give them the email, at gmail.com, whatever, and I want you to use a subject line this and just mention this in the body and send me the email as soon as possible, the latest tomorrow. Now you made it easy for them. You gave them the subject line, what they should say in the body, maybe some hashtag or some kind of tags for them to quickly notice your email and respond. The more you make it easy, the more they're going to take action. That's why your call to actions, first of all, should be simple, visible, and actionable. If you give them generic call to actions, hey, I want you to reach out to me. This is too generic. How do they reach out to you? Via email, social, LinkedIn, phone, what? And also I see a lot of people making generic recommendations, like I want you to go to a library and I want you to find some books and I want you to read and take it to the next level. Why don't you tell them the exact library, if you have the library name, or at least the exact title of the books with the author? You make it very, very easy for them to make actions right away. In conclusion, you say I'm using in conclusion. I'm transitioning to close my speech. In conclusion, the lifespan of this generation has been reduced to seconds. You don't have minutes to hook your audience. And therefore, make sure that you have a high impact introduction where you hook your audience right away. And I gave you some approaches, some examples that you could use to hook your audience. Use the ones that you feel comfortable and relevant to your each speech. We also talked about how to make smooth transitions and close with high impact. And I mentioned about the importance of letting them know that you are closing. Give them one thing that's important for them to remember after the speech, and make your call to actions simple, visible, and actionable. To learn more about the book that I mentioned, you can go to our website, which is under my name right here, www.theA2ZInstitute.com. At the top, one of the menus says books. Click that, go to Speaking for Impact. You will get every resources that you need, including the outline of the book, a sample chapter to read, where to go and get the book. Right now, if you want, you can buy the book from Amazon. It's $9.99. It's just a coffee or maybe a sandwich price. You can right now order from Amazon and read it right here and take your presentation skill to the next level. You can also request one-on-one coaching, or you can invite us to come to provide one-day workshop or webinar for your team, or 2-day, which is my favorite, because in the 2-day workshop and webinar that we have, it's highly engaging. We don't lecture people. Right now, I don't have any option to engage with you. That's why I'm speaking. But we follow the latest adult learning principles in our workshops and webinars. A lot of question and answer. We use Zoom, which allows us to send you to the breakouts, to have one-on-one and also small group discussions, debriefing. Most importantly, we have For example, I gave you some examples of how to hook your audience and how to close. We break you into groups. We want you to practice. We want you to come up with a speech, and we want you to use one of these hooks, and we give you feedback to make it better. The same thing for closing. And then also we give you opportunity to speak, to practice everything that we covered in the class. We may give you like 3, 4 opportunities to speak, recorded, and then you're gonna have large group feedback and also one-on-one feedback in a small room. This is powerful. At the end of each webinar and workshop, people tell us, I wish I was in this workshop 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. You don't need to wait 10 years, 5 years from now. You can turn around the communication abilities of your people starting from today, starting from tomorrow. We're here to help you. If you enjoy this, how many minutes? Okay, 26 minutes, a little bit larger. Look, this is just one topic out of dozens of topics covered in the book and in our workshops. You can't imagine what you're going to get if we cover all of those dozens of topics with a lot of insights, examples, practice, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and so on and so forth. Reach out. I would love to work with you. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.